You're watching Training Camp with Adam Marburger, exclusively on CBT News.
Welcome to another episode of Training Camp exclusively on CBT News. I'm your host, Adam Marburger. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a black belt in automotive. And this show is designed to help automotive professionals grow personally and professionally to ultimately receive their rank of black belt as well. Today's a great day. It's a beautiful day to help a dealer enhance their F&I operations. I have a secret here today. I've got my secret weapon, James Mercer. I want to get right to it. First of all, thanks for coming here in Atlanta in the studio.
Thank you.
Is this your first time to Atlanta? Have you ever been here before?
I've been to Atlanta. I have not been to the studio. So yes. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I've known you for a long time, James. And in my opinion, you're the top 5% in the industry when it comes to profit share. Like, you have an acumen of reinsurance and DOWCs that really most don't. How did you get there? I mean, because I can promise you in high school, you didn't have aspirations to be a reinsurance expert. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong.
So how did you get here?
So actually, I recently came from Protective, so worked at Protective almost 20 years. I had 6 years of automotive retail before that, finance manager, sales manager, GSM, the whole bit. And started with Protective as an account executive, really just going around to dealers, talking about how we could partner with them and help out with training and development. And at first, I was just going by what my manager told me to do. Like, here's the products, we offer training and development, and then we offer reinsurance or retro, pretty basic offerings. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. I said, here's what we have, here's what you can do, and here's what it means for you. And until actually one of my first accounts, Andy Bone, who used to run Lundy, Kia, and Mazda up in Fargo, North Dakota, he says, I don't know what to do. Why don't you just do what you'd do if you were me? And that's what kind of opened up to, well, if I was the dealer and what were my goals, what would I do? And that's how I've looked at it ever since. If I were the dealer and I was doing a program, which one makes the best sense for me? And I always make that recommendation for them.
Yeah. So for a dealer that's maybe been in reinsurance for, say, 15 years, do you think that dealer should take a look at his position or her position and maybe see if there might be an evolution out there? Or is the reinsurance model that we got stuck in 15 years ago, is that the right model today? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
It's always evolving. So it depends what the dealer's needs are and what their goals are for the future. Are they looking to double their size, make acquisitions? Are they looking to build a legacy and build wealth for their family? But for the most part, it's evolved so much. There's not a lot of current providers saying, hey, let's look and make sure you're doing the best thing you can do. So the best thing for any dealers is to do an analysis. They can obviously call Ascent Dealer Services up and we can do the analysis for them. But taking a look at any reinsurance program, we always find something they either didn't know they were paying for or something they should be doing better to make more money.
Yeah. So when you talk about a fee they didn't know they were paying for, can you kind of piggyback off that, allude on that? Like, what do you mean a fee? What kind of fees do dealers maybe not know what they're paying for?
Well, there's a variety of fees. So every provider has pretty random fees from top to bottom. We've seen, specialized rental car fees up in some northern accounts in northern Minnesota, which we couldn't even figure out what that was. But, premium tax is considered a fee, claims fees, session fees, seating fees. There's always fees associated with any participation program. Once it gets beyond normal fees and egregious, that's the things that we like to talk through with dealers and make sure they're aware of at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason insurance companies have the tallest buildings in most cities, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that dealers are getting a fair deal at the end of the day. It's got to be fair for the insurance provider and it's got to be fair for the dealer, right? Because we're in business to help the dealer. I do, though, want to help the dealer. So for the dealers watching, all right, for the dealers that are in reinsurance today, I want to help you be more profitable. So I'm going to ask you a question. So let's just say a dealer's running, say an 80% loss ratio. Mm-hmm. Not horrible, not great, but it's not the end of the world at an 80% loss ratio. There's still profit there. What advice would you give that dealer that's maybe hovering around 80% to maybe back that thing down to 70%? What advice would you give a dealer to kind of help optimize that position?
Well, there's a couple factors that go into loss ratio. One is, are you reimbursing yourself for retail parts? What's your labor rate? If you're doing the door labor rate, if your door labor rate's $200 and on a warranty claim you're going full retail, you can always reimburse yourself a discount, maybe $175, $185 to be able to improve the position of your reinsurance. But the main thing that I've seen, and even Protective where I was before, is COVID brought in the most serious changes to reinsurance in the last 20 years. Inflation was a real thing. We got tariffs coming down, the alley. We don't really even know how that's going to affect everything. But every dealer increased their labor rate. Every part almost went double in cost, and a ton of people didn't change their rates in finance. And that's the easiest way to have your loss ratio go up. Because if you don't change your rates 3 years after all the increases go, you're going to have to do pretty big changes to keep up with those 3 years that you didn't increase. So that's one of the number one things, I talk with our partners about is make sure you're doing those incremental increases to keep up. Because if you go 5, 6, 7 years with no increase, you might have to do a 90 to 100% rate increase just to keep up.
Yeah. So how often, speaking of, paying attention to the portfolio, how often should a dealer be sitting down with their provider to kind of review the financials, to take a look at the position? How often do you recommend that?
So every quarter, you should at least be doing a high-level review of your reinsurance, DOWC, retro, whatever participation program you're in. And then once a year, we always recommend a deep dive. Are you selling the right products? Are you getting the performance out of those products? We've worked with some partners that had products performing negatively. They had a high mileage program and we just couldn't price it to go below 100%. So they said, let's just get that out of our position completely and let somebody else worry about it. But the once a year deep dive, once a quarter at least, high level.
So let's talk about making money for a minute. So, we're in business to help dealers build wealth in tax-friendly environments. You could have the absolute best reinsurance program, or you could have a DOWC, or you could have an incredible retro program. You could have whatever structure that works for the dealer, but then not have the adequate support behind it and the training and methodologies to actually feed that machine. Could you touch on that? I mean, because I do see that a lot of dealers, they want the lowest fees, but then they're not investing in the training and support behind it to feed it. So what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're very much related. So we see partners that have extremely aggressive wholesale programs, and it's a DOWC in the back end and low fees, and all the fees are gone, but they'll have subpar performance on the front. If you really do the math, you got to have the good programs on the back end. You have to have the right training and development and coaching on the front. Because like I said, if you do the math, and you add up missing out on 20% VSC penetration, you can't keep up with your investment income and saving in the fees on the back end. So you got to make sure you perform on the front. Plus, every contract you send to an aggressive back end program compounds that money even more. You throw compound interest on it, you keep the loss ratio down. It's a married family. So if you get the coaching on the front and you get a great program on the back, that's the best of both worlds.
Well, that's good stuff. So I got one final question for you, if you don't mind. I'm going to throw I would love you to I'm going to throw a little curveball because I want you to give me a scenario. So in your career, what is a scenario you can share where the dealer might not have been in the right program, you got involved, you realize, holy cow, this shouldn't have been it based on the dealer's needs and wants. What was that, and what did you do to combat and help the dealer? If you don't mind thinking about that for a minute.
So actually, just recently, we had a first meeting with one of our current partners because we just partnered with them. But we sat down and I talked through all the participation programs that are available. There's retros, there's reverse retros, there's reinsurance, of course, there's NCFC reinsurance, there's DOWCs, and then there's dealer obligor if you just want to have all the money yourself. So I went through each one and kind of said this would be for this scenario, this would be for that scenario. And he actually, which stuck out, it was kind of like the lightning bolt, and he said, I was always under the impression there was only one option, and that was reinsurance. You're laying out 5 or 6 different options. And he said, where I'm actually at is I know I'm going to retire in 5 years. I don't want money when I'm 100 years old. I need money now, and I want to boost the profitability of my dealership. So which program should I be in? And that's just an example of when you're consulting with a dealer of what are your needs, which one works best for you. he actually moved off of a standard reinsurance program because that wasn't the best bet for him. He wanted short-term growth, income potential at that time. And that's what we do for our partners too. A DOWC is known as the most efficient model for participation in the business, but it's like a 401k, it's long-term money. If you sat down with a client as an investment advisor and they said, I need money next year, the 401k is, well, this is money for when you're retired. If you need income next year, let's talk about other options for you.
Sure. It's good stuff. So, you got a wealth of knowledge. I love talking all things profit share with you. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. And I hope you come back again, because I'll tell you what, my favorite topic is I love talking profit share, and I learn a lot from you. So thank you. I appreciate you. So,
thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode here on Training Camp, exclusively on CBT News. Remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We must be willing to take action in our stores. See, training isn't something that we did. It's something that we must do, and we must do it on a continuous basis. Here's my final thought. Fights are never won in the ring. They're not won in the cage. Fights are won in training camp. Let's get to work, guys.
Thanks for watching Training Camp with Adam Marburger, exclusively on CBT News.